Good morning. If you got a Bible where you're sitting around, you can open it up. Open up to Acts chapter 20, verse 24. If you don't have a Bible, what I'd like you to do is sometime today, go to that verse and read it, underline it. I don't know. I wrote it in my moleskin, so every time I open it up to relook through my notes, I'm just going to be reminded of the words of that verse. I'm going to paraphrase it as I'm driving along here, because this verse has been driving my thoughts for the past couple of days. And this verse is just, it can be a life verse for people. I think it should be a purpose verse for churches in general. And for me anyway, it's just really changing my thought for my life, my ministry, my passion, my purpose in life. I'm going to paraphrase it because that's just the way I remember things. I remember them by paraphrasing them, and then I turn back to him if I need to say it word for word. But essentially what Paul is saying in that verse is he said that he doesn't count his life worth anything. I mean, he says it other way, that he considers everything a loss compared to knowing Jesus Christ. But in this Acts chapter 20, verse 24, Paul just simply says that my life is of no value at all. As a matter of fact, my whole purpose is to finish the course to which God has called me. And I think about us, and I asked this question Sunday night to a handful of people that came to church, and I asked this question: what is salvation for? I mean, there were so many answers. The answer was forgiveness. And if salvation were merely for forgiveness, then once we have that forgiveness, then we can live the rest of our lives with really just that forgiveness, and just that knowledge of knowing that when we die, we go to heaven. And these were all great answers. I mean, because it's just stuff that we think about, and none of them were wrong. Hope was one of them. So that we can have this hope within us that this life is not all there is. And you think about that. I mean, that's a great thing to have, because all of us need a hope. We need to know that there's something more than just today that we can live for. Eternity was another one, in which that's a great answer as well, because God has saved us because he wants to spend eternity with us. He loves us so much that he doesn't want to spend one day, and which really, that's just an amazing thought, because God doesn't even count days. We count days. God doesn't want to have any part of his existence without us. So, but if it was just eternity, I got thinking, if God's purpose for salvation was for us to have an eternal home, wouldn't it stand to reason that once we made that decision to follow Christ, that poof, we die? Or better yet, that God takes us away like he took Enoch away, and because we walked with him and we were no more here on this earth, but we got to spend eternity with him. Or even still cooler, which I would really like to see this, is that a fiery chariot opens up from the skies and comes down and takes us up to heaven with God, because that's what we got, is eternity with him. Man, it's got to be for so much more than these things. Because if it were just for forgiveness, then we could just, then we have that, so there's nothing else to live for. If it were just for hope, then our salvation would be really all about us. If it were just for eternity, we wouldn't be here any longer at all. No, Paul says that God, that his life, that it was of no value, that he had to finish the course which God had set for him. And what was that course? That course was to proclaim the gospel to everybody he could proclaim it to. And I think, man, all right, guys, seriously. I mean, why don't we do that? Okay, as individuals, why don't we do that? We don't do that for so many reasons. Maybe we're afraid. Maybe we don't think we know enough. Maybe we're worried about we got some unrepentant sin in our lives that we know about and we know other people know about, and so we haven't made those decisions to repent. And I would just be praying about that for you. But maybe we just don't believe the message, or maybe because we've internalized all of salvation as being something just for us. And then I think about our churches. I'm going to talk about my church in particular, and I'm going to talk about me. And, because I keep thinking, man, if we could only have this, and if we could only have a top-notch worship leader, man, we could really reach people for Christ. If we could only have, more finances, so we can hire, bring Tommy on full-time so he can concentrate more of his efforts on the youth ministry. And if we could only have, more money, more people, more resources, a better building, building, a better this. And I'm thinking, I mean, God just really slapped me in the face today. And he's like, listen, what you have is enough. You have the most powerful message in the world. Now proclaim it. I mean, come on, guys. Seriously, as a church, let's stop making excuses. I'm talking about me. I'm going to stop making excuses, because God has given us everything we need. Everything we need. And what we have first and foremost is a message to proclaim. What's our excuse? And as a church, I hope we get rid of them. And I'm going to personally in my own ministry and how I lead. As individuals, why has God saved you? I challenge you to go back and read Acts chapter 9, Acts chapter 22, Acts chapter 26, as Paul is retelling his story of his conversion. And there's one thing, well, Paul retells it twice and Luke tells it one time. Luke's the author of all three accounts there. But one thing, one common thread is scattered throughout all three of those stories. And that common thread is this, is that Paul was saved for a purpose. And that purpose was to proclaim Jesus Christ to all who would hear. And I would challenge you that that purpose is the same purpose for you and I and for our churches. So let's get busy.